The Macrons ordered my assassination. France ordered my assassination. That's what Candace Owens, the prominent conservative content creator, is claiming, and has claimed for about a week on Twitter. Now having her first show on this subject, why does she believe this? What does she think substantiates it? And what does it tell us about American politics and the French and U.S. responses to this? Let's just check it out. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
As you learn things, you become a target. You become a target to people that operate in the shadows. And that is, I think, what we are all learning in the wake of the last couple of months, especially. Now, going back to November 25th, I obviously tweeted exactly what I was informed. Okay, I'm going to read that tweet to you in its entirety. Urgent. 2 days ago, I was contacted by a high-ranking employee of the French government. After determining this person's position and proximity to the French couple, I have deemed the information that they gave me to be credible enough to share publicly in the event that something happens. In short, this person claims the Macrons have executed upon and paid for my assassination. Yes, you read that correctly. More specifically, that the green light was given to a small team in the National Gendarmerie Intervention Group. I am told there is one Israeli that is on the assassination squad and that plans were formalized. Again, this person provided concrete proof that they are well placed within the French government apparatus. Further to this point, this person claims that Charlie Kirk's assassin trained with the French Legion 13th Brigade with multi-state involvement. Journalist Xavier Poussard's life is also at risk. This is deadly serious. The head of state of France apparently wants us both dead and has authorized professional units to carry this out. I ask that every person retweet and share this. I do not know who in the American government can be trusted since this source claims that our leaders are aware. But I have more specific information, which is definitively verifiable, should they care to reach out to me. And to the brave official in France who did this because they were so moved by the evil of Charlie's public execution to risk their own life, may God bless you truly. Let all be revealed. Now,
so just pay attention to the basic details here. First, she's claiming that a group within the National Gendarmerie Intervention Group, that's a French special forces unit, was ordered to do the hit on Candace Owens. That also, the person that gave her this source, a high-ranking official in France's government, also claimed that Charlie Kirk's assassination trained with the French Legion 13th Brigade, and also have threatened Xavier Poussard's life. He was the French journalist that revealed a lot of the same scathing things about Brigitte Macron as Candace did. And, subsequent messages from Candace has said she's reached out to authorities in the United States, not only the FBI, but also in other organizations and other institutions within the United States to convey this, even going so far as to say she'll give the names and information of the people that she believes was responsible. Just hold that in your mind. It's going to be important in analyzing this later.
I got even more specific. Right? I said there was a paper trail that Macron allegedly paid $1.5 million. And I am saying allegedly because until I can physically see with my own eyes inside of these accounts and verify the transfer of that payment, it's of course alleged. The amount is alleged. 2 assassins were hired, one Israeli, one French Canadian woman. Okay, a man and a woman. And I also said that the money ran through the elite gentleman Club des Cent. Again, I was very specific. And I asserted that the French Foreign Legion, which was a legion and a group that I had never heard about prior to this notification, were involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination. Okay, I don't follow military stuff. So me even mentioning specific gendarmerie, you have to assume that I got this information from somebody. Now, if you are, in fact, currently at this moment, the first man of France, that would be Brigitte Macron, and you are currently suing a podcaster in America named Candace Owens for defamation, for telling the truth, right? And the story that you are trying to sell to the public is that you were really deep down in your heart, you really believe that you are a woman and Candace is just crazy and desperate for clicks and willing to defame you for money. Then Candace Owens publicly proclaiming and accusing you of something not akin to, directly implicated in her assassination, a claim which has gone viral. When I say viral, I mean just the tweet alone had over 100,000 retweets and 45 million impressions on X alone. Okay.
Yeah, I think her original tweet had something like, I don't know, like 50 million views or something. It was just insane, just astronomical in Twitter. And whatever you think about these claims, whether they're right or wrong, this does seem to be a motive on the Macron side to want to do this to Candace Owens. She's accused Brigitte Macron of being a man, being born a man, secretly, and having that covered up. And so much so has this incensed the French that they've sued her for defamation. And by the way, that's the interesting part of that story to me. The precedent that this sets, that a foreign head of state that's ostensibly a U.S. ally is suing an American content creator for things critical about them, possibly untrue. But what kind of precedent is that going to stand for in a world where a new independent media is rising and rising, displacing the old legacy media? Are we just going to get lawsuit after lawsuit from foreign heads of state? But either way, there's a motive here, so much so that Macron, when visiting the White House, somehow got the Trump administration to call Candace Owens and tell her, hey, you got to stop talking about Brigitte Macron being a man. I mean, it's just so comical. But when you think of this, the motive exists even if you think these claims are wrong. She's citing that they came from a high-ranking French official, and there is a motive, whether or not you think it happened.
Okay. This would be your unique opportunity as the French first man to prove your case about Candace to the public, right? In the court of public opinion. This would be your time to slam dunk. Remember, the French couple has been so psychotically obsessed with trying to paint me as conflicted in my reporting that they even hired a private investigator to try to see if I was colluding with other state actors. You know, they kind of gloriously insinuated that I might be working with Russia. They paid for that. They paid for that investigation. So using that logic, wouldn't this be the opportunity, if you're the French couple, to come out and to prove your point, to make a stunning and a swift statement, right? We are shocked by the accusation. Of course, never in a million years. Oh, we told you guys, this is just for clicks. It's for money. This is beyond anything we've ever heard. I hope Candace gets well soon. That would be what I would say you should do if I'm advising you from a PR statement.
Okay, so I want to address this because that actually has happened from two segments of the French government to some extent. So Élysée Palace, that is where the French presidential couple resides. It's that complex. It's like saying the White House, but the French version, Élysée Palace. Here's what they said about Candace's claim. These accusations are not only unfounded but dangerous, designed to incite harm without any factual basis. In addition, the French Foreign Ministry has denied any involvement in that foreign assassination claim or ties to Kirk's death, calling it an absurd fabrication. So I don't think that this has been widely printed in U.S. publications, but it has been printed in some, including in this one that I'm about to bring up here. This story talks about this, and this came from December 1st. So this was earlier today. Candace was probably not made privy to this, is my explanation. But this section in its whole talks about this and the French response. So they have actually responded to it. Maybe Candace wasn't aware of that, but they have responded to it and denied it pretty swiftly from what I've seen.
Standpoint, right? In American basketball terms, this is like a flagrant foul, and you now get some free throws, right? If you're the French couple, you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees, investigative fees, and PR fees in a country on the other side of the Atlantic, trying desperately to paint me as a lunatic, and I give you the opportunity to spike the ball to prove that I'm a lunatic, and you don't do it? No, they didn't do it, did they? If you're paying attention, they did not do it. Of course, they send out the people on Twitter who get to come out and say, oh, I think she's crazy. I think she's making it up. They do this. We are always doing this every week.
He's right about that. They do that every week. They say she's lost her mind. They said this about her Charlie Kirk assertion that Charlie Kirk did not maintain rigid adherence to the Zionist mantra right before he died, and in fact said to the contrary. he had changed his mind on that, while people in the text group exposed to Charlie Kirk's last words, some of them anyway, saying, I have no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause, continued to lie about them after seeing that, and Candace Owens completely exposed them. And they still maintain the same line in this whole story. I don't know the truth yet. I don't have full corroboration of her claims. I might never get that. But what I do know is that the U.S. government hasn't responded whatsoever to her claims at all yet, despite the fact she said she shared that information. The U.S. feds have been pretty mum about this whole thing. And she is saying she thinks it can be corroborated. Maybe it will. And so much so that even Brandon Tatum, who doesn't agree with Candace at all on issues like Israel, has come out and said, you know, I think she's trustworthy. I think she's telling the truth, whether or not it's true, that this is the source that came to her and she provided the info. So we'll see what happens, but they're maintaining the same line that she's just lost her mind. She's just crazy. Well, last time she exposed them after saying that when it came to Charlie Kirk and his turn away from the pro-Israel cause in his own words.
Oh, Trump never called her about Brigitte Macron. She's making that up for attention. Oh, she's lying. Charlie Kirk never changed his mind about Israel. She's making that up for attention. This is what we do every week, right? We're hamsters on a wheel. And so we're back to that again, right? People saying that I made it up. But what did the French couple do? That's what matters. It's now been a full week since I made that announcement. And here is the official response issued by the Élysée Palace.
Oh.
Nothing.
Okay, I thought she was actually going to play the response, but it's not true. They did respond. I just read the quote. Again, Candace might not have been privy to that, at least in that one article I saw. That article only came out today. She might not have seen it, but Élysée Palace did respond to this, calling it a unfounded but dangerous accusations and designed to incite harm without any factual basis. So it's not crickets, but in a way, if that only just came out today, I think it did. Candace might not have been aware of that, but they have denied it today.
Nothing. I want you to bear in mind that this was front page global news from the United States to Russia. And I publicly challenged the Candace is making everything up crowd to prove it. Press the White House for a response, right? The White House the ball's very firmly in their court. And a week later, this is the official White House response.
As far as I can tell, that is the truth completely. There hasn't been any response I've seen reported from the White House on this, or any segment of the federal government on this, either corroborating or refuting her claims about this. So we'll have to pay attention to that. This is still a developing story, but she's totally right about that one. There hasn't been a federal response from what I've seen.
So what are we to make of that, you guys? Did I report it to the White House? Of course I reported it to the White House. Did I report it to the FBI? Of course I reported it to the FBI. Did I report it to our counterterrorism unit? Of course I reported it, because I'm telling you there's a paper trail. Common sense. You think I'm just doing that because I'm assuming you could get a felony for making something up out of thin air like that. You can't just use United States resources to go after somebody in a plot that never existed that you did for clicks on YouTube. So what's the issue here? Why is no one coming out and telling you that that's completely baseless, especially the Charlie Kirk assassination? The whole world is invested in that assassination. Wouldn't you want to shut that down? The idea that it was a multinationally planned event? And by the way, is that on its face even plausible? Multiple agencies and multiple countries involved, from Egypt to Israel. People are saying that's totally crazy. No, it's the lone shooter who had never been on campus, who climbed the roofs like Spider-Man, happened to know where Charlie would be sitting and hit that shot in 4 seconds. Is it plausible that that's not the truth? Of course it's plausible. Anyone who knows anything about the French government probably knows that they have an appetite for cruelty and sexual deviancy. Anybody who has made it through the first couple of episodes of Becoming Brigitte knows that the French government has an appetite for cruelty and sexual deviancy. Okay.
All right, so in terms of the FBI shutting the door on foreign involvement, that kind of has happened, at least implicitly, because if you remember, Joe Kent, one of the chief subordinates of Tulsi Gabbard, actually came to the FBI, came to Kash Patel and said, hey, look at all these leads that we've dug up to investigate possible foreign influence in Charlie Kirk's assassination. Will you have a look at them? No. Door slammed shut on Joe Kent by Kash Patel. This is widely reported from a few weeks ago. They didn't want to even entertain the notion that there were alternative explanations because they had already dug into and stuck their heels in this narrative. And yeah, I'm sorry, I think the most plausible thing for Americans to believe is that the FBI narrative is never 100% true. It's never 100% clear. What proves that more than January 6th and COINTELPRO and Waco and Ruby Ridge and all of those, designed things to botch investigations, to just sweep the truth under the rug, protect themselves, protect the Uniparty, and protect foreign actors, especially Israel, by the way.
Okay. LOL. The city of romance, really? Romance with who? Exactly. That's one of the broader points of the Becoming Brigitte series. And so I'd like to thank Pavel Durov, the founder of Telegram, for being one of the first people to stick out his neck immediately and to assert what the entire world already knows about France. Here's what he said. He said, after reviewing everything Charlie Kirk has ever said about Macron's France, I find Candace's information about French involvement in his death entirely plausible. Charlie even called for 300% tariffs on France until the charges against me were dropped. And I also would like to shout out Freddie Ponton, who wrote this article reminding people, and when I say reminding, I mean teaching people, if you're me, because I didn't know this, that exactly this satellite of countries, France, Israel, the French Legion, the United States, Egypt, were quite literally involved in exactly this sort of operation, which further reaching global implications, involving the Safari Club in Egypt. Now, if you haven't heard of that, this was the article that he wrote, passed as prologue, Safari Club illuminates Candace Owens' allegations. I had never heard of this. I really hadn't, okay? Because I feel like I'm Alice in Wonderland. A few years ago, I kind of believed everything the government said. I thought there were good guys. And after the Charlie Kirk assassination, I'm going, oh, wait, no, nobody is a good guy. These are like gangs that are running the world, obviously, gangs that have gone mainstream.
Yeah, that's been the deep state. I mean, that's been the basis of CIA propaganda, inciting regime change operations and psychological operations. That's for sure. And I want to refresh, some of my audience might not know who Pavel Durov is, but he was the founder of Telegram, the social media platform, and he got in trouble with the French authorities. They arrested him ostensibly because they said that he was involved in trafficking illicit materials, including child porn and also illicit drugs. But what they're saying is that no, people actually just did that on his platform, and they want to pin it on him and for him to go down on that. What they really wanted to do was attack his right to have a social media platform where things that were said were not conducive to the French authorities, particularly painting the Macrons in a bad light and blaming the nefarious crimes of individuals just for using his platform to communicate. Thankfully, he's free for now. And, as far as I can tell, he's a champion of free speech, but I just want to inform you of that if you weren't aware.
And democracy and the idea of a republic is just an illusion. Well, anyways, in that article, I'm not going to read a paragraph from it, but he said, when Candace Owens claimed on X that a high-ranking French government insider warned her of an imminent plot to have her assassinated, alleging that President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte had authorized and financed the operation, assigning it to a small national gendarmerie intervention group team that included an Israeli operative. She also suggested that Charlie Kirk's assassin trained with the French Legion with multi-state involvement. The claim sounded like it belonged to the realm of conspiracy thrillers, and yet, as the allegation ricocheted across social media, something unusual happened. People did not instinctively laugh it off. Some dismissed it, yes, but many hesitated, paused, or quietly admitted that given the right circumstances, given the right network of covert actors, such a plot didn't feel entirely impossible. That hesitation doesn't come from trust in Owens, it comes from history. And sure enough, and I'm just pulling up the Wikipedia page here, you should go read that article in its entirety, but the Safari Club, man, a covert alliance of intelligence services formed in 1976 that ran operations around Africa when the United States Congress had limited the power of the CIA after years of abuses. They decided to kind of go overseas. They handle business. They had members in pre-revolutionary Iran, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, and France. Israel's involved, Rhodesia, South Africa. I mean, it tells you there that the process is then resulted in the 1979 Egypt, Israel.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to see how this develops. The video got cut off on the Safari Club area there. I'm not sure why that happened, but this is a developing story. We don't have all the answers. As I talked about before, some of the claims, relied on passing information to federal authorities, including the White House and the FBI and the Counterterrorism Office, as Candace Owens said, and we haven't gotten a response from the feds. So I can't wait to see a response from the feds. I would like to see that as quickly as possible, and it is actually interesting what they might say, because if they deny this completely and say there's nothing there, just like the French authorities are, I don't put it past Candace Owens to produce actual receipts and names and try to nail this down and have, sleuths on the internet search and find out what they can do. Because when the FBI doesn't do that, when they have a preconceived narrative that they're protecting and they don't want to do, the future of investigations is through independent media and individual investigations. It's not through deep state organizations that no one trusts anymore, and for good reason. The FBI has had such a murderous history that who can trust them? Very few people do, if at all, especially when they believe, like, hey, you were guilty of some of the most nefarious behavior on earth. And not enough people think that, but it's enough for basically all dissidents to call for the abolishment of the FBI and its current leadership, which is just so preposterously absurd and corrupt that not only are they covering up the Epstein case, but they're certainly not giving us the full story of the Charlie Kirk assassination. Whoever you think is culpable for that murder, or group of people you think is involved in that murder. That's just the truth. And what we have here is an attempt to marginalize Candace Owens, just like there was done when she criticized Israel, when she dared to say that genocide is wrong no matter who did it, when she dared to say that no, Charlie Kirk actually was changing his mind on Israel and being beholden to Israel and being so supportive of the pro-Israel cause. So much so that you guys lied about him to try to pull him and use his death to further your own political agenda. And Candace Owens turned out to be right. Well, she might be turning out to be right here. We don't have full information or corroboration, but I'm really interested to see what the United States says about it, to see how to handle this and how to cover it going forward. Now, also, we have this tweet from Candace recently when she gave more information about French legionnaires she said that trained first in California and then in Camp Ripley, Minnesota. She said Camp Riley there. But what has happened with a lot of the people on the internet covering this is they've taken this and, disposed of minutia when she made an obvious mistake, a one-letter misspelling of Camp Ripley by saying Camp Riley. So you had a lot of publications and people pushing back saying, hey, there's no such thing as a Camp Riley, Minnesota, even though that's like an obvious mistake if you're aware of bases in Minnesota. So you have this as kind of a limited hangout. We're going to say that Candace Owens is totally wrong and preposterous. Nothing she says is true because she misspelled Camp Ripley. Instead of actually taking on the substance and seeing like, hey, maybe let's look into these Legionnaire activities. And I'm not sure they were arbitrary. I'm not sure they had anything to do with this. But you can see how this is being handled. It's a psyop to not address the substance and only a one-letter misspelling. So we're going to have to see what we get from this case, what we learn about it. It's going to depend a lot on potential Fed responses. The feds, I don't think, are keen on Candace Owens, especially her propensity to expose the U.S.-Israeli relationship. But if they lie about Candace Owens providing this information, detailed information with names, that could be a serious thing that, encourages Candace Owens to reveal the information to the public. And that's what I'm here for. I want to see that. I want to learn more about this. I don't think the story's dead, and we haven't heard the end of it yet. But what do you guys think? Do you think this is legitimate? Do you think the U.S. government will respond to this? If so, how do you think the U.S. government will respond to it? What questions might those responses raise, and how will Candace deal with it? Let me know in the comments down below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, Also, subscribe to Candace Owens, and if you like this video and my content, please consider becoming a YouTube member. You can do that by clicking the join button below. And if you do that, I'll give you access to all my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube. You'll be able to see my members-only videos right away. And also, if you want a free copy of my first book, Compact of the Republic, click the link in the description below. It'll shoot you off to a website. All you do is plug in your email. I'll send you that book in PDF form, free of charge, no obligation, just because you watched my show, and I appreciate it. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.
I sense that the pro-Israel lobby is on the brink of collapse. They are desperate for allies, right? And they're so desperate for allies that they're forcing them away. Bibi Netanyahu is committing a genocide, and Ben Shapiro sat down with him last month. And do you guys think he pressed Bibi Netanyahu on the point of a genocide? It is pre-planned. It is not organic. The supporters are not organic. The questions are not organic.
Candace Owens is convinced that the pro-Israel lobby in the United States is on the brink of collapse, and hey, I'd like nothing more than that. It'd be the Christmas gift of the ages. And in this clip, she gets into how this plays into the recent MAGA civil war with Zionists like Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin trying to cancel Tucker Carlson, why these people are acting so desperate, and why they don't exactly have the best standards for who and who you can't platform. So let's get right into it. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Now, I want to also show you what Ben said about me, because it's so outrageous and it's so dishonest that we actually should process what is happening here, okay? This is a watershed moment. Ben does not have it together. He is very insecure, and he's going on the attack against Megyn Kelly by lying about what I said and then forcing her to react to the evil of what I never said. Here's what Ben said.
We're in a business where people comment on what we say publicly. Again, this is why I think you and I differ on our angle with regard to, for example, Candace Owens. I think that what Candace Owens is doing right now is evil. It is evil what she is doing right now. Okay, and I say that again.
But what?
Because
like I didn't opine on whether it's evil or not, but my position is it's really none of my business. And
why is it? But I have a question. Why is it none of your business? I mean, you comment on these things for a living.
I'm not mother of the internet.
No, but if this were on the left and somebody were accusing Charlie Kirk of his wife having murdered him, I assume that you would be talking about it.
Is that what Candace is accusing Erica of?
Yes.
Of murdering her own husband?
She's accusing TPUSA insiders and other members of the right wing, including Seth Dillon, of being involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk, yes.
Absolutely untrue. I've seen every episode. This is a total lie. I have, reason to believe that Ben Shapiro knows it's a lie, and he cares more about the narrative than the truth, as do all Hasbara-obsessed Zionist stooges. It's absolutely untrue. Candace has been very charitable to Erica Kirk and not levied such accusations at her, even when so many people within kind of the conspiratorial community have done that, have said, hey, Candace, you need to focus more on Erica Kirk. She was clearly involved. Candace has said nothing of the sort. She also hasn't said Seth Dillon and people within Turning Point USA are responsible for his death. Yeah, she's brought up some things where she said, hey, Charlie was betrayed. He was clearly turning against Zionism and turning against Israel. We have that in his own writing via the text she divulged, but never blaming them or saying that they were involved in his actual murder. She has raised some things I don't disagree with, but this is just a plain lie. And what else should we expect from Shapiro? He lies for a living.
It's just, I don't even know how to respond to it because it just never happened. It's so crazy. He's not even anywhere near what's happened. Anybody who's watched this show, I actually was getting flack from my audience for not covering Erica's past or speaking about her parents.
Yep.
I said she gave one of the most consequential speeches, and I have focused my investigation on Turning Point USA and why they're telling certain lies. Seth Dillon, I told the truth that Seth Dillon lied about the Hamptons meeting and that he was pressuring Charlie about the topic of Israel. I never once accused Seth Dillon of murdering Charlie Kirk. So what's he actually doing here, right? Obviously, there's a lot of layers that we should peel back, and it's important that we do it. The least interesting part of this is the fact that he's lying through his teeth. That's implied he's a Zionist. But there's a lot more that's happening that meets the eye, because Ben Shapiro was effectively the final boss of the pro-Israel lobby, and it's because he never comes out and says what he means. He's kind of like more of a behind the scenes person. And we're now watching him come undone in real time, because no matter who you are in this age of digital media, it is simply not a good idea to lie through your teeth. Okay.
Certainly so. It's so much easily disprovable than it ever was in the past. And you know Candace will bring receipts. That's her whole repertoire. That's her whole persona. That's her whole appeal to the people that love and follow her. It's just irrefutable. And to me, the interesting thing about this, and I agree with her, by the way, is not only that he lied about this, but that he's trying to steer Megyn Kelly and manipulate her into taking his side in this squabble, despite knowing, Ben's not stupid, he knows that Megyn Kelly is a friend to both Candace and Ben Shapiro, and doesn't view like she has to take a side in this. Now, whether you do or not is not the question. I would like to take a side in who's right when it comes to who betrayed Charlie, who clearly lied to him, who was wrong about trying to lionize him as a rigid Zionist despite knowing better in his final days. I have a clear position on that. But Megyn doesn't. But you're trying to manipulate her to your side specifically to try to win back favor on the right that you have so lost. And it's clear why you lost it. Because you're Israel first. You're essentially a foreign operative. We see through you, Ben.
Wrong time, 2025. Before you get the lie out, the internet is going to clock it, right? They're going to go back and be like, you lied. And when you do something like that, the blowback is going to be on you. They're going to go, actually, this now impacts your credibility. You said that Candace went out and said something about Erica. By the way, you hear the people in the background going, woo! I'm going to tell you what's happening there too. And you're going to see how this thing really works.
Maybe the Zionists piped in 7K to clap for each of the clappers in that audience. Maybe so.
Point number one that I want to make about what Ben is doing right here is just the stunning hypocrisy of it. Okay. The rules for thee and not for me. I am getting old. My memory is getting a little fuzzy, but I distinctly remember the week that I was gloriously fired from the Daily Wire. And during that week, the CEO of the Daily Wire, at the time it was Jeremy Boring, jumped onto an X space hosted by Lauren Chen and had a conversation with Nick Fuentes where he sang Nick Fuentes' praises and also invited him onto the Daily Wire. Okay, here's a headline because the Huffington Post remembers too. Daily Wire CEO tells white supremacist Nick Fuentes that he's talented and he's very funny. The article goes on.
Cancel Jeremy Boring. Cancel Jeremy Boring. Blood libel. This proves that Daily Wire is an anti-Semitic organization. Look at what its CEO is doing. He's platforming and applauding Nick Fuentes.
During a live-streamed conversation with white supremacist Nick Fuentes last week, the CEO of the Daily Wire, a major right-wing media outlet, praised the prominent fascist influencer and offered only mild criticism about some of his political views, a stark difference from how he has spoken about Fuentes in the past. On March 25th, the Daily Wire CEO Jeremy Boring joined Fuentes on X for a live audio chat room. Boring told Fuentes that he listens to Fuentes' show quite often, and that he thinks Fuentes is, quote unquote, very funny and one of the most talented political influencers, even if he is very concerned about some of what Fuentes says.
And just notice the mainstream media, the legacy media, is going to put you in the same bucket of Fuentes, regardless of whether you speak out against them or not. You know, they're saying this of the Daily Wire. They're supporting a fascist. This is exactly the tactics that the Zionists are now using against Tucker Carlson, using tactics indistinguishable from the legacy media and how they handled this, calling it, you know, a fascist and saying that this is a major right-wing fascist organization. Just absurd.
Later in the discussion, Boring said that he'd be thrilled to have Fuentes on one of the Daily Wire's shows to debate the media company's popular pundits, some of whom have millions of viewers. This happened. So I want you just to remember this, because I feel like people are not appreciating how hypocritical it is that he's now trying to struggle session Megyn Kelly because, he had Fuentes on the show, when the Daily Wire position in 2024 was that their CEO could talk to Nick Fuentes publicly, praise Nick Fuentes publicly, and also invite Nick Fuentes onto the Daily Wire platform. Now,
it's pretty ironic, right? But it's not just that. It was the Daily Wire's position that you can platform genocidal maniac Netanyahu, throw him softball questions all day, and boast about it and then double down on Israel's atrocities. And guess what? Netanyahu is guilty of far more crimes than Nick Fuentes, whatever you think of him, ever was. For impure thoughts, they say this guy is just beyond the pale. But we get to interview and just lob the easiest questions and just fawn over this maniac, this bloodthirsty mass murderer at the Daily Wire, Netanyahu. And it's not just Netanyahu, it's, trans kids activists, and, you had communists being debated by these people too. None of those people are beyond the pale. So they're setting the Overton window in the same way that the legacy liberal establishment wants it to be set. This is the Uniparty. This is the Zionist plan to try to retake this narrative that they've just lost with the public.
Now, another point that I'd like to make is the stunning hypocrisy again and again when you stop and you consider that he's pressing Meghan and referring to this as an evil, the thing that I never said or did. But this is the same Ben Shapiro that roots the destruction of Gaza on. He supports and congratulated Randy Fine, who has literally tweeted laughing at photos of dead Palestinian babies. But I guess Tucker Carlson speaking to Nick Fuentes is just so much worse than celebrating, and not just celebrating, interviewing a man who is committing an actual genocide.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
That's not up for debate. That's what they're trying him for. Bibi Netanyahu is committing a genocide, and Ben Shapiro sat down with him last month. And do you guys think he pressed Bibi Netanyahu on the point of a genocide? I don't understand how you could just go out there with your hair on your chest and you're just like, yeah, how dare you? How dare you not make a comment, Meghan, about Tucker Carlson? How dare you not make a comment? I care now about Charlie Kirk now that he's dead. I care about him and what's happening. Candace trying to find out who killed him. That's evil.
Yeah, the striking hypocrisy is being noticed. Let's just say the great awakening of the noticing continues. And it's over stuff like this. Their tactics are backfiring so spectacularly when they don't even see the hypocrisy of their own, judgment and their own machinations. I totally agree with Candace. The only thing I'll push back at is they're not charging Netanyahu in Israel with committing a genocide. They're charging him with fraud and corruption, and he would have gone down for that. That was a major political scandal in Israel in, I think, 2022 and 2023, maybe even earlier than 2022. He was going to go down for that. Those charges are still on the table. They've just been delayed as Netanyahu unfurls this genocide in Gaza and attacks 7 of his neighbors and then says, hey, we need an 8th front. That's propaganda in America. It's just been delayed. That's what they're charging him under. The government of Israel, I hate to say, is totally kind of on board with his plans in Gaza. It's horrifying, but that is the truth. There are dissidents within Israel. They're few and far between.
You're lying. You lie when you have nothing left. So the question becomes, what is Ben actually doing here? Because it's certainly not principled. I think we can put that to bed. It's actually also risky behavior when it comes to Ben Shapiro. Like, he doesn't usually come out of the gate like that. And I think a couple of things are driving this unforced error. One, I do believe that he is actually scared of Nick Fuentes, okay? I think that fear comes from guilt. Nick's backstory, don't care what you think about him. You already know I don't like Nick Fuentes because of how he treated me. But the backstory is compelling. I learned the backstory listening to Jeremy Boring, the former CEO of Daily Wire, sit down with Nick. So I was right after I'd been fired, and I didn't know what Ben and Jeremy admitted that they did to him. And so I think if you artificially push somebody out of the market, and Ben has never come out and denied anything that Nick Fuentes has said. Also, Jeremy Boring didn't deny it in a conversation with him. So we have to assume the story is true. And given what I know about what happens now, I think, and what Charlie was going through, I think we can all realize that Nick was an 18-year-old kid, like he told Tucker, and now the whole world knows this story. He started asking questions about Israel, and he got artificially pushed out of the market when he had his whole life ahead of him, okay? And now, when they did this because they wanted to rid themselves of Nick Fuentes, who then became angry about it and definitively has said very offensive things on the internet, but also he was 18, 19 years old. Now you see him on Tucker Carlson. You don't like Tucker Carlson, and I think it makes him uncomfortable.
It sure does. That's probably an understatement. I generally agree with Candace. Look, what we have here is Ben Shapiro, who's fearful of facing a debate opponent who's formidable on the Israel issue. and that would be Dave Smith or Nick or someone else that's very studied in this, Norman Finkelstein, they would all mop the floor with him because he doesn't care about the truth about Israel's past, the perverted nature of this relationship. He doesn't even seem to talk about the history of it much because it's indefensible. It's indefensible on the basic tenets of morality outside of, hey, libertarianism or non-interventionist foreign policy. It was a massive land grab, stealing property from people and redistributing it to others on a global scheme, on a global level supported by the US and UK predominantly. So his complaint that this just legitimizes Nick Fuentes. It's like, if I was to debate Nick Fuentes, it's like, what are you talking about? That wouldn't even legitimize you, and Nick is so much bigger than you now in Rumble. You're losing your influence, he's gaining it, people are turning away from the Israel First narrative. Yeah, you still have some viewership, but you are being knocked down pegs by people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, who, if he wasn't banned from YouTube, he'd probably have more followers than you, by the way. I think he has 5 million on Rumble right now. So that would legitimize Nick Fuentes. No, Nick Fuentes has arrived regardless of what you think and regardless of whether you like it. That's just the truth.
I think we're in Harry Potter, right? And Lord Voldemort thought he killed the baby, and the baby may be lit. I don't even know who the Dark Lord is in this story, but I do know. I don't even know who he who must not be named is in this story, but I do know that with Ben and Nick Fuentes, it's kind of a neither can live while the other survives, and Nick Fuentes seems to have survived, okay? Without advertisers, without sponsors, without connections, with the entire media writing things about him, being put on the ADL's list, he has proven to be quite resilient. And it is in large part due to how hard they fight him that people become curious. It's like, we're watching kids be bombed. Like, how many people have lost their lives in Gaza? And you're telling me the greatest evil is Nick Fuentes? I'm sorry. I think I can survive Nick Fuentes insulting me. I don't feel the need to wheel and deal behind the scenes or, tell Tucker not to host him. I just don't care. It's just really not my business. I'm like Megan. I just don't care.
I totally agree with her. And I think this shows such maturity from Candace Owens, knowing she has a personal beef with Nick Fuentes. But yet she's just acknowledging the truth that Nick has arrived, whether you like it or not. Ben just pretends that, all of Fuentes' followers and all people that lend him credence, at least on the Israel issue, have just been, compromised by Qatar. No, we saw a genocide play out in front of our eyes that's killed over 100,000 people. That's why Nick has arrived. So to hear Candace acknowledge this is totally accurate. This is just what's going on here.
Like, okay, if somebody wants to be a fan, they can be a fan of Nick Fuentes. And I sense an insecurity here in the fact that 10 years on from when Ben had this thing that happened to Nick Fuentes that he tells a story about, now Nick Fuentes is still here and Ben's influence is waning. It just factually is, okay?
It is.
Another thing that's happening here, and this is on the point of Megyn Kelly and going back to the woo, making it sound like Ben's got a popular position about me. I sense that the pro-Israel lobby is on the brink of collapse. They are desperate for allies, right? And they're so desperate for allies that they're forcing them away. That's what they're doing to Megyn Kelly, right? They're showing the world right now that they are willing to lie to get what they want. Ben is lying right now to get what he wants. And for whatever reason, the pro-Israel lobby believes that this repeat failed strategy of lying and threatening people is going to work.
Yeah, it's not. I'm totally with her there. Now, I'd clarify, I think the pro-Israel influencers are on the brink of collapse. I don't think the pro-Israel lobby is quite on the brink of collapse. Yeah, American opinion has turned en masse against this catastrophic, unholy union between the United States and Israel. It won't play out in our politics for some time. Certainly not in 2028. I don't think so. Maybe in a decade, because all demographic shifts are showing that. But the Zionist influencers are losing credence, are losing influence, are losing pull on our American politicians gradually. That is true, and that is why they're acting so desperate. And it is backfiring. I think that's the best point, is where are the Zionists out there that are taking a look at this as it's playing out, as this is just completely losing Israel ground in this propaganda war, in this war for information and the information that would lead people to the truth and discard this relationship? Where are those Zionists saying, Ben, Mark, Randy, what are you doing? this isn't working. We need to retool. We need to try something else. I just don't see those voices. They're all hysterical, thinking that a Holocaust is around the corner, but denying the Holocaust playing out in Gaza. That's where these people are at.
Now, you might be asking, well, how is Megyn Kelly being threatened here? This is exactly what Ben just did on stage. That is exactly the moral blackmail that Charlie was speaking about in the last days of his life, okay? Ben is morally blackmailing Megyn, right? He's sitting across from her. The threat is her reputation. He's standing there and he's saying, Candace is attacking a grieving widow and accusing her of murdering Charlie Kirk. Will you disavow this evil on the spot? And he's got these fake people going, woo, yeah. And you can see Megyn's uncomfortable because she's like, well, did she say that? Man, like maybe that is evil. Like does that happen? And he doubles down. He's like, yes. She said, Seth Dillon murdered Charlie Kirk. Will you disavow this evil on the spot? That is moral blackmail. Are you a better person than to accept Candace Owens, who has attacked a grieving widow and is saying to that grieving widow that you murdered your own husband? That is moral blackmail. Now, speaking of on the spot, everything that you just saw happen here, and Megyn Kelly, I hope you see this. Truly, you guys, send this clip to her. This is really important. It is pre-planned. It is not organic. The supporters are not organic. The questions are not organic.
That's the truth. It's moral blackmail. So beyond the lies that Shapiro told, and he did, they're provable. She hasn't said that. And I guarantee if she actually had said that Erica Kirk or Seth Dillon was responsible for Charlie Kirk's murder, Ben Shapiro would tweet that. He would tweet that clip. And guess what? He hasn't. Oh, that must be a coincidence that he hasn't tweeted it. No, it's because she didn't do it. And he is such a megalomaniacal manipulator to try to draw his friend, Megyn Kelly, his friend, right? She considers them both friends, and she doesn't take a side in this, per se. You know, again, whether you think that's right or wrong, I have my own opinion. I do think it's worthy to take a side in this. But Ben Shapiro's trying to manipulate Megyn Kelly to her side via falsities and manipulate her into denouncing Candace Owens, like struggle sessions try to get people to denounce what is right or wrong. This is exactly what's playing out. It's pretty crazy to see this play out in the right when, you know, conservatives, I think, rightly pointed out the absurdity of the liberal establishment doing this. Like, you can't platform or talk to this person. And, you know, the conservatives saying, well, you're a snowflake for that attitude. You should debate the issues on their merits and let the chips fall where they may. That's how Ben Shapiro himself got his political rise, speaking on college campuses. Facts don't care about your feelings, right? Well, in this case, they don't care about your feelings, Ben. The facts are you're a liar, you're a Zionist, your side's losing the grip on the American populace. It'll be a while until it plays out politically, but you are losing that grip. And I'm here for every moment of it. But I do want to hear from what you guys think. Let me know down below. Is Candace Owens right about this? Is the pro-Israel lobby just losing its stranglehold on American politics? Are they on the brink of collapse? Is it just the influencers? Are they going to succeed in trying to take Tucker Carlson down? Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also subscribe to Candace Owens. Awesome segment. Great job, Candace. Keep fighting for this. Really appreciate you. And if you're watching this and you want to help support the channel, please consider becoming a YouTube member. You can do that by clicking the join button below. And if you do that, I will give you the benefit of getting access to all of my videos that are members only right now before they go live to the general public. You'll immediately be able to see all those videos. Also, if you want a free copy of my first book, Compact of the Republic, click the link in the description below. It'll shoot you off to a site. Plug in your email. I'll send it right to you just for free via PDF form. No obligation there. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.